Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing the astrology of and the horoscopes for August 2026, what the month ahead has in store for your zodiac sign. As always, if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. Subscribe to the channel for regular astrology horoscopes from me. And if you want to visit any of my other astrological socials or visit my website for astrological services, all the information is listed in the description box below. So August, of course, brings eclipse season, and eclipse season, as we know, is a time of fated and destined changes. Not all of them easy necessarily, some of them brilliant, some of them not so much, but it just simply tends to be a time where things feel heightened. Either you are a main character in these eclipse storylines, or you are a supporting character in these eclipse storylines, and there's very rarely an in between. So you might be finding in August that you're noticing bigger events going on around you, maybe in the lives of those around you, maybe in your own life. What can happen in eclipse season is that it can be a time of destined and fated new beginnings. So new characters enter the storyline, new chapters arise, but it can also be a time of endings. There can be people moving out of your life. There can be relationships ending. There can be jobs coming to a close. There can be old chapters wrapping up. Eclipses tend to accelerate what has already been going on, either to your knowledge or behind the scenes. So you could really notice some very fated changes happening in your life and the lives of those around you in eclipse season in August. It tends to be a bit of a course correction time. So if you're going too far down a path that is not part of your destiny, eclipses can come in and shake those up and reroute you in another direction. And if you're looking for that path, sometimes eclipses can land serendipitous opportunities, experiences, and people on your path. So it tends to be at least a very interesting time. I always say, though, with eclipse seasons, try to look out for others around you because a lot of the time people are going through big changes or on the precipice of big changes. So it can be a very interesting month to observe, not only in our own lives, but with what's going on in the world, on the world stage, where we are all players, because this is a solar eclipse in Leo that we're having this month. So it can really be quite dramatic. It can bring drama, entertainment. It can put those in positions of leadership or simply spotlight very much into the public eye, particularly as we have the energy of Jupiter. With this solar eclipse, Jupiter will also be in Leo. So things can certainly be dramatic and loud, and in some cases entertaining, and in other cases, maybe a little bit overbearing. But it does tend to bring a dramatic flair. So with it being a total solar eclipse, it tends to be that little bit more intense. These changes that come in tend to be the type of changes that cannot be undone. And they do tend to bring up rather significant events on the world stage, but particularly when it comes to leaders, people in positions of power. Leo would be entertainers, it would be celebrities, it would also be the monarchy with Leo energy. And we can notice that these different types of people are very much in the spotlight, even though they would ordinarily be. They can be more in the spotlight than usual. And a total solar eclipse in our own lives can encourage a bit of romance. It can encourage a bit of creativity and entertainment and just tapping into the need for fun, need to have a good time, need to enjoy yourself, to be creative, to feel inspired, to tend to your own inner child and do things that really make life feel like you're living. You know, it's a very energetic solar eclipse. And it can certainly bring totally new beginnings into our lives, particularly in our Leo houses and our birth charts. And I will get into that in the horoscopes section. The lunar eclipse is a full moon partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, and that's happening on the 28th of August. And this is a continuation of eclipses that we've had since the end of 2024 in the signs of Virgo and Pisces. And this lunar eclipse is square Uranus. So you might think back to February when the eclipses kicked off, and it was the start of the Aquarius Leo eclipses. We had that solar eclipse in Aquarius in mid-February, and it was in a square to Uranus. And Uranus at the time was in Taurus. Eclipses that are square Uranus are the ultimate wild cards in astrology. This is when really chaotic and crazy and strange things can happen and probably will. This lunar eclipse is a mutable T-square. And with the Sun conjunct Mercury in Virgo, this can be shocking news, clarifying conversations, breakthroughs in your mentality, breakthroughs with your mindset. It can be a time where conversations come out of the blue, declarations come out of the blue, information, news in a way that is surprising and it's shocking and it just shakes everything up at its core. And in the sign of Pisces, this can actually feel very much like it's coming out of nowhere. And it's not that it is, it's actually that it was going on behind the scenes to begin with. So in the world, we can see this with the oceans, we can see it with water, we can see it with oil, we can see it with Pisces energy about foreign affairs, because Pisces is the 12th house, which is lands and seas far from our own. So there can be events happening on the world stage that maybe shock and surprise you. And I know that kind of sounds like a redundant prediction at this point, but one of the reasons there can be so many shocks and shakes-ups this year generally is because the eclipse seasons, both February and August, both have eclipses that are in tight squares to Uranus. And oftentimes these shake-ups and these breakups and these breakthroughs and these unexpected events are oftentimes pushing us towards some kind of breakthrough that comes through clarity, comes through awareness, and it also comes from a bit of a spiritual connection with Pisces as well, connecting to one's own intuition. It can actually be a time where a lot of people notice that they had a feeling about something with the lunar eclipse in Pisces. They had an intuitive knowing, they had a deep feeling, and then they received news or information that is shocking, but confirms that they were right. So do pay attention with this lunar eclipse in Pisces at the end of the month, what your dreams are saying, what your intuition is saying. They can be quite profound and they can actually make a lot of sense a little bit later. So I would write things down. You'd be amazed that if you write down your dreams, when you look back in a couple of months' time and see what actually transpired, they can oftentimes have something in them that was alerting you forward. Now, August is a number 9 in numerology. So 9 is about coming to the end. It's about wrapping something up. It's about completion. 9 in numerology is also associated with the planet Mars. Now, Mars is going to be going into Cancer in August, on August 11th. Specifically, Mars is not so comfy in Cancer. Well, maybe comfy is not the right word. Mars is in fall in Cancer, so it doesn't necessarily execute its energy in the way that Mars prefers to do. So when Mars is in Cancer, action that is taken can sometimes be a little bit more mood driven. So it's less about consistency and more about where you're at emotionally when it comes to what it is that you want to do. So Mars being such a profound and pronounced energy in August can mean that we are really feeling driven to take action somewhere, likely in the Cancerian part of your chart, the Cancerian house in your chart, which will be an interesting thing to observe because we are now out of the Mercury in Cancer retrograde. So what that means is if there were miscommunications and there was reflection and there's a little bit back and forth and will I, won't I? What does this mean? Mars going through Cancer now can say, you've thought about it. Let's do it. It can be about taking that action. Now, again, it's moody action. It's moody action. It can be about feeling one day I'm going to put in all this effort, and the next day thinking, I just need a minute. And that can seem fluctuating because Cancer is a water sign. It's about the tides coming in and out. And it's about knowing when to go with the flow, the ebbs and the flows, the cycles, because Cancer is about the moon and our energy is very much influenced by the cycles of the moon. So you can find with Mars being in Cancer that if you were to track the moon cycles, you will really notice your energy peak around the full moon, and you'll really notice that maybe in the little build up, the few days before the solar eclipse, you maybe feel flat as a pancake. Um, Mars is entering Cancer the day before the solar eclipse, so we can sort of notice that our actions and our inspirations are changing a little bit. So, yes, the actions that we take, the drive that we have can be a little bit more up and down. It can be a really good month to lean into cycles. It can be a really good month to lean into tracking your energy and how it ebbs and flows and trying to work with it instead of against it. Mars in Cancer isn't about just plowing on regardless, even if you're feeling very flat. It's about listening to your intuition and listening to your body. Venus is going to be entering Libra this month, and I can hear a collective cheer because Venus is domicile in Libra, and Venus actually enters Libra on the 6th. And this is a beautiful time for love. It's a beautiful time for relationships. It's a beautiful time to just enjoy the beautiful and finer things of life. This tends to be a better time for matters of the heart. It also tends to be a time with Venus in Libra that you can notice some positive unexpected developments in relationships because of the trine to Uranus and Pluto. So it can be for some people you feel as though the inner work and the reflection and the healing that you've been doing now starts to lead to some kind of a breakthrough in terms of what you want in love or what you want financially or what you want in terms of your aesthetic and your branding or, the things that you have in life, what you consider beautiful. But it certainly brings a rather lovely social energy, especially as the sun is going to be in Leo until the 22nd. Jupiter is going to be in Leo. Venus in Libra. It could be a really nice month socially to go to parties and events. It can just be a month that is a little bit more social. Now, in noting that the South Node is in Leo, so albeit it's a total solar eclipse, when we have the South Node in a sign and it is the season of that South Node, there can be this process of needing to release something. So oftentimes when we have a South Node season, which I would define as when the Sun and the South Node are in the same sign, because it is also eclipse season. But there can be the North Node season as was that we had with the last series eclipses in February. What can happen is that we can realize we need to release something. We need to let go of something in our lives that is possibly rooted in ego, or it's possibly rooted in a need for validation, external validation, rather than the fact that you love it, or the fact that it's fun, or the fact that it feels creative and it feels abundant. And this can be a time where you sort of notice if something, if a play in your life has come to a close, if a song that you've been playing on repeat has finally worn thin. Leo's a very creative and entertaining energy, but it can also be a time where you're maybe drawn to watch the old movies or listen to songs that you used to listen to when you were a teenager. You can be kind of drawn backwards into past entertainment and the arts from the past that resonate with you. The Sun is conjunct the South Node at 29 degrees of Leo on the 22nd. 29 degrees is of Leo is about royalty. And it's a really karmic degree when it comes to leadership, when it comes to people in positions in power. There could be leadership changes this month, or there could be very fated things going on with leaders. Sometimes Leo rules the heart, so sometimes it can be in a health perspective. Sometimes it can be that there is a need perhaps for somebody to step down, or there's a need for somebody to abdicate. It doesn't have to be these things, but certainly with a total solar eclipse, these changes can be in the works. May they perhaps happen later than what you're seeing publicly in August? That's possible too, because sometimes eclipses actually conceal things. So you can oftentimes see with eclipses, if you look back the way at eclipses, they often give you a hint in astrology of what is happening behind the scenes. And with it being in the sign of Leo, this can be to do with transitions of power. This can be transitions of leadership that are happening. So, if you if you were to pull up the birth charts, the natal charts of quite a few people in positions of power, you would see very heavy Leo placements that are affected by the stars in August very much so. So there can be pretty big things happening when it comes to leadership. But generally in entertainment, it can also be a really fun time for the arts over the next year or so with Jupiter being in Leo and the solar eclipse being in Leo. But if you're feeling just yourself, it's not necessarily about pursuing fame, it's not necessarily about pursuing celebrity or anything like that. But if you have a creative talent or hobby that you really want to explore, maybe something that you did as a child or a teenager and you're thinking, I would love to take that up again. This might be a time to listen to it. This might be a time you start thinking about, Josh, do you remember I used to play this instrument? And do you remember I used to perform in these amateur plays and things like that? And you might think, well, I have a little bit of time now in my life. I have a little bit of space to maybe incorporate some of those things that feel fun, things that feel like play. So this could be a month where people are picking up old hobbies that they used to do, that they used to explore. Because sometimes life gets in the way and you move on to other things and you're not doing it as much. So you feel that calling, this might be the time. Things sort of shift to a more organizational, back to school feeling once the sun moves into Virgo on the 22nd and Mercury follows straight after, well, 3 days after on the 25th. And then we have the eclipses continuing in Pisces and Virgo. And as much as the nodes have shifted signs, just a word of warning to all the Pisces and Virgo people out there, the eclipses are still ongoing in Virgo and Pisces and will be into the beginning of next year as well. So Virgo season this year can still be that kind of fated time where destined events and shifts are occurring in your life or those around you. I do feel like there could be some significant surprises happening in Virgo season generally with that partial lunar eclipse in a square to Uranus. And it does seem to center around clarity, though, clarity, having the information you need to either make changes or to respond to changes that are happening in your own life as well. So as always, I'm going to pull a tarot card for August 2026. This is the Mystic Mondays Tarot, if you're interested in it. It's very colorful. And let's see what additional message we can get for August 2026. As usual, eclipse season tends to mean that those who have their natal placements, their sun, moon, rising in the signs of the eclipses, so Leo, Virgo, Pisces, because of that lunar eclipse in Pisces, they tend to feel the eclipses the most. But we can also give a special shout out to Sagittarius and Gemini, who could be feeling that lunar eclipse in Pisces, and also Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius, who could be feeling that total solar eclipse in Libra. So let's get a tarot card for August 2026. The High Priestess. That's that lunar eclipse in Pisces. Very psychic, very sensitive. There's going to be a lot of reveals this month, I think, especially with that lunar eclipse in Pisces, a lot of hidden information coming to the forefront. And August actually starts in the aftermath of a full moon conjunct Pluto. So secrets coming out could be a big part of this month. This is a month to trust your intuition, especially when it comes to, as I noticed, the Two of Wands is at the bottom. When it comes to your path, when it comes to your next steps, your intuition is going to serve you well in choosing new directions or knowing what to do with the course corrections. It's a very divinely orchestrated month because of the eclipses. So High Priestess energy can be about trusting your intuition, paying attention to your dreams, and just generally leading with your intuition and what you know, what you sense, what you feel. Because the High Priestess is an incredibly intuitive energy. It does tend to come up when something is hidden for whatever reason. Something's hidden, something's concealed, and eclipses tend to drum up that information. Eclipses themselves can also conceal things. So sometimes when you see events happen at an eclipse, we don't always end up with the full story. You know, it can sometimes be those events in life where nobody's ever truly sure what happened. You know, those cases where nobody's ever truly sure what happened, like what was the reason, even. Sometimes things can happen that don't necessarily generate the ultimate sense of closure. But the intuition usually has a bit of a clue. So I think this month with the High Priestess and the Two of Wands, this is going to be a month of course correction. This is going to be a month where your intuition will be your greatest guide and to trust that inner knowing, especially with a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. You know, the North Node is no longer in Pisces, but the point of those eclipses was to lead in the direction of inner knowing and connection to the divine when everything else seems so very confusing. That is what I have for August 2026. Timestamps are listed below in the description box below for each of the zodiac signs. As always, I suggest you watch your rising sign for the most accurate predictions, but you can watch for your sun sign as well. Hope you have a great month and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Aries, welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. Aries, this is of course eclipse season, and eclipse season is a very fated and destined time astrologically. And essentially that means that we can notice during eclipse season that there are these fated new beginnings and these destined endings. And, the terms fated and destined just means that there's something grander at play. There's something bigger to what is going on. So pay attention to the people you meet. Pay attention to the endings that occur. There is usually something going on behind the scenes that makes it so. There's some sort of reason that this person has entered your life, or that that person has left your life, or something about your soul's path. That doesn't necessarily mean that any of it is easy or any of it is terrible. It just is more of a neutral term, really, destined and fated in eclipse season. But in some cases, you can be a main character, and in others, you can be a supporting character. But for you, Aries, the total solar eclipse that's happening on the 12th of August is going to be in your 5th house, and this is quite a fun one. This is a house of fun. So there can be something new happening in your life that you're quite happy about. For some of you, it could be a new love interest on the horizon. It could be a new chapter in your romantic life generally. Maybe you're getting back into dating. Maybe you meet someone who's meant to be on your path romantically. For some of you, you could actually have maybe more than one person interested in you with Jupiter going through the 5th. For others of you, it could be that you actually reconnect with someone with the South Node transiting the 5th house now. And the reconnection could actually be from a past life rather than necessarily knowing that person now. They can just feel very familiar to you. There's something about them that you were meant to learn from. They're on your path for some sort of a reason with the eclipse happening here in your 5th house. Now, this can also be for some of you pregnancies, can be births. It can also be maybe for others of you that you're beginning a creative project. Maybe you're birthing a creative project, something that you're very inspired by, something that's really on your mind. Mercury is going to be going through your 5th house from the 9th to the 25th. So you could really have your mind on fun, on parties, having a good time, creative projects, passions, hobbies. You could discover a new hobby. You could take up an old hobby. But essentially, Aries, your motivation here will be fun and good times. So you might have a more social month this month. It might be a more romantic month this month. Or it could just be a month where you're really putting pleasure and fun at the forefront of your priorities. Now, by contrast, the lunar eclipse is happening in your 12th house on the 28th. And the 12th house is a very spiritual house, but it's very behind the scenes. So for some of you, the first half of the month, you could be the belle of the ball, the life of the party, especially with Jupiter going through the 5th house. But then at the end of the month, you're thinking, I need a break. I need a holiday. I need to take some time by myself. I need a rest. Your dreams could be very vivid. They could be very clear. Some of you could have psychic visions. Some of you could have paranormal experiences. And this eclipse can really trigger your connection to the supernatural or the spiritual, and maybe in quite unexpected ways. But it can also be a time of profound release, Aries. For some of you, you could be working through something from the past that still lingers emotionally. You still feel it, you still react to it if it's mentioned. Something that still feels like a pain body. It may be time to release that, and it may come up because of a surprising conversation. It's in a square to Uranus in the 3rd. So information could actually liberate you from something that is holding you back in some way, Aries. Maybe you have an emotional wound, and it's been there for quite a long time, and somebody says something, maybe a sibling, maybe a neighbor, or this wound could be around siblings, neighbors. Somebody says something, or you see something online, and it gives you clarity, it gives you emotional clarity, and you think, I'm going to release that now. Or I needed to see that so that I can let it go. That can be something that comes up as well. News, conversations that surprise you can bring epiphanies. The Sun-Mercury conjunction, Mercury rules your 3rd, is happening at the time of this eclipse, and it's in your 6th house. So maybe you're just going about your day-to-day business and you have a conversation and suddenly you feel as though you're letting go of something bigger. It can also show traveling overseas. Sometimes lunar eclipses in the 12th house. But for a lot of you, it can be a very spiritual time where you're going through an emotional catharsis. And it does seem to be, Aries, that it's because of something you hear or you see or a conversation that happens. Now, Venus is going through the 12th house. This is beautiful for the 7th house, rather. The lunar eclipse is in the 12th house. Venus is going through the seventh, which is beautiful for you. A domicile Venus in Libra going through the seventh is great for partnerships, for relationships, for meeting somebody, for getting on better with your relationships. Obviously, Venus gets into oppositions with Neptune and Saturn, so you're still thinking about what it is that you need, what it is that you have as a boundary in relationships, Aries, but also what your ideals are in relationships. But for the most part, Venus going through the seventh house can be a time where you do get on better with other people. And it does also tend to be a time where you have more social invitations also. And with this much activity in the fifth, it could be a rather social month for you, Aries, or you may at least have the opportunity to do so. I think in the second half of the month, you're more focused on your day job, your work, getting back into your routine. Clarity about your health can come up this month as well. Clarity about what you need to do or change, or news surrounding your health, or maybe even your mental health. I do think with these eclipses, generally, you could notice, Aries, the profound link between your mental and emotional health and your physical body with that eclipse. Your ruling planet Mars is going to be switching signs this month, and it's moving into its sign of fall, which is Cancer. I do think, Aries, you could be finding that a lot of you have maybe a little less motivation, and when you do, it's very influenced by your mood. This may be a time where you're very focused on your family or your home. I could see a lot of you taking a hammer to your home or renovating your home, putting physical effort and work into your home, or even your family's home. Maybe you're helping your parents with something in their property. But it can be with Mars going through its sign of the fall that you feel more protective, maybe of your family, or you feel more protective of your emotional security. And I think, particularly in the second half of the month with that lunar eclipse, you're feeling maybe a little bit more sensitive and emotional. And it could be a little bit of an emotional catharsis for you. And where you're probably putting your energy for the most part, Aries, because of Mars and Cancer, is into your home, is into your family, and is into protecting yourself. So, with Mars going through Cancer, perhaps you are redecorating or renovating, but it can also bring up some tension with family, especially if you're feeling very sensitive. It can sometimes bring up a bit of discord with family and family members. One thing that's quite nice for you this month, Aries, in particular, is that Jupiter in the fifth is going to trine Saturn in the first at the very end of the month. And that's a lovely trine. This can be a time where you're really expanding things that make you happy. You're finding joy in romance or love. Some of you are finding joy with your children or pregnancy. For some of you, it's creative passions, hobbies, and they're really supporting you. It feels as though with Saturn in the first, these are things you're wanting to commit to. You're okay taking responsibility for these things because they make you happy. So maybe for some of you, it is becoming a parent. Maybe for some of you, it's about getting back into romance. Maybe for some of you, it's committing to a past romance. Maybe for others of you, it's just a creative project that is bringing you a lot of joy. And that is what I have for you this month, Aries, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Taurus. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. So, Taurus, this month we have eclipse season, and it's a very fated and destined time for all of us. It is a season of fated changes. So, this can bring new beginnings, this can bring endings, it can bring an acceleration of storylines in your life, it can close an old chapter, it can begin a new book, and it can be a time of course correction where you're getting back on track, maybe with what your soul wants for you, what you signed up for, essentially. So, one of these eclipses is very significant for you because it's happening in an angular house. So, the total solar eclipse is happening in your fourth house, Taurus. And Jupiter is now in your fourth house as of the end of June. So, for a lot of you, Taurus, this eclipse can coincide with a move. Maybe you are moving house, maybe you've just moved house. A lot of your attention is going on to home and the family. So, when we have a total solar eclipse in the fourth, it oftentimes brings a new chapter in our living situation, whether it is that we move, whether it is that we have something going on with our family. Maybe somebody new enters the family. Maybe this is a time where you're renovating or redecorating, or just your family members and your relationships with your family are taking your focus, Taurus. There is a sense of déjà vu with the South Node being here. So maybe for some of you, if you're moving somewhere that has history for you. So maybe family history, maybe you've lived there before, maybe there are people that you knew from the past that are there. Maybe you just feel a sense of resonance wherever you're moving because there is a past life connection also. Maybe for some of you too, you are reconnecting with old family members. There's a reset maybe in your relationship to a family member. But if you are moving around this time, it's likely that you're going somewhere that you're meant to be on this time in your path, or you are meant to be there for some sort of a reason. Taurus, there's some sort of a reason for this move or this relocation, but there can also be significant changes in your home and in your family. Sometimes Jupiter foretells moving to a bigger place, but sometimes it also foretells relocation, moving abroad, moving somewhere far away. But even then, with the South Node, it's likely there would be some sort of karmic connection, a past life energy. So changes on the living front and the home front are very likely for a lot of Taurus risings, but there can also just be significant events happening in the life of family members or with your parents, triggering this axis as well. The lunar eclipse, Taurus, is happening in your 11th house, and I feel for a lot of you with this lunar eclipse on the 28th that maybe you are potentially changing your mind on the future in some way, shape, or form. It's shifting how you're viewing your future. And this can also bring about changes in your friendships and the groups and the teams that you're a part of. And that can be because people leave these teams or because you're leaving these teams. There could be separation from friendships or groups or teams or memberships, or some sort of transformation in these areas. Maybe something is revealed to you about a team that you're a part of or friendships that you have. Maybe you are deepening a friendship with a friend. And for a lot of you with this lunar eclipse, it could be something rather surprising. It could be for some of you that you and a friendship actually end because you clash on values or because of money issues. It could also be for some of you that you're changing your teams, the memberships that you have, the clubs you're a part of, again, because of values or money matters. I also think at this time, Taurus, you could be getting clarity on a romantic situation because we do have the Sun and Mercury conjunct in the 5th house. There could be an important conversation with someone you're romantically involved with. There could be romantic clarity about someone. There could be important communication, maybe with children as well. The 5th house is children. Important communication with your children. They could have news that you could be sharing news with them. And some of you could also have an inspired creative idea, and maybe that affects your vision of the future as well, Taurus. But I would say for most of you, this can definitely bring unexpected shifts in terms of your team, groups, and friendship dynamics. And I do think some of these could be kind of unexpected and maybe change up your day-to-day routine a little bit. Venus is going to be going through your 6th house. This is very important for you because you are ruled by Venus. So Venus going through the 6th house, Venus is in domicile in the 6th house. I think for a lot of you, you're enjoying prioritizing your health and your well-being. It can make your day-to-day experience a little bit more lovely. This can be where you get on better with your coworkers or your employees. You get better service in the coffee shop. You get to a really nice restaurant. Your day-to-day experience is more pleasant. You have a crush on your barista. It can be anything that just makes your day-to-day experience a little bit more positive. And this is quite a nice one if you're looking for new active wear or gym wear. Venus going through the 6th house. You can really get some lovely, fine things to wear to the gym or exercising. It can also be where love is connected to these places, Taurus. Mars is going to be going through your 3rd house this month from the 11th. Mars going through the 3rd house is an interesting one for all of us because, well, not all of us, for you, but Mars going through Cancer is an interesting one for all of us because it follows the Mercury retrograde in this sector. So for some of you, you could have had trouble with a car. You could have had trouble gathering your thoughts. You could have been back and forth about a trip, a short distance trip. You could have been back and forth in communication. There could have been communication issues, and there could have been squabbles maybe with a neighbor or siblings. Mars going through this sector really energizes it. So if you've been back and forth about a trip or you've been back and forth about a communication, Mars brings a lot more action here. This can definitely be a time where your phone is more active, there's a lot more messages coming through. You're very direct in what you say, Taurus, at this time. Just be mindful of that. You can be more direct in terms of how you express yourself, taking action and saying the thing. Cancer energy is notoriously mood driven though, so Mars going through the third can be where you're maybe a little bit moodier in communication at times. You know, you're really saying how you feel in the heat of the moment. This can also be a time where maybe you are taking that trip, or maybe you are confronting that communication issue, or maybe you're feeling more inspired to read. Mars going through the third is a great time for reading more, really going through all the books that you want to read, fact gathering, getting more information. But it can bring a little bit of additional heat or tension with siblings or neighbors at times. When Mars goes through the third house, it can also bring road rage. So be mindful of that. Try to take a little bit of extra care driving this month, Taurus, especially because we have a lunar eclipse that's in a square to Uranus and there's very unpredictable energy from other people. It can be a bit of a volatile time when there's a lunar eclipse conjunct Uranus, so just be mindful of that, especially because Uranus is in Gemini and Gemini rules the roads. So you have been warned because you may, above all else, feel like speeding to get to where it is that you want to go when Mars is going through the third. One other notable mention for you is Chiron is going retrograde in your sign, has only been there for 5 minutes. Chiron only entered Taurus in June, I believe, in June or July. And Chiron going through your ascendant sign or your sun sign or your moon sign, depending on what you're watching this for, this is where you're starting to reflect on your wounds surrounding you and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your value and your appearance. And Chiron going through the first house can sometimes be a time where we notice how we feel about ourselves and our insecurities and our sense of beauty or our sense of worthiness or our financial value. And maybe you're reflecting on how some of those wounds need to be healed. Or maybe since Chiron went into your sign, you've maybe noticed where some of those wounds have come up. And now you're reflecting on how you want to heal them. That is what I have for you, Taurus. I hope you have a wonderful month and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Gemini. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. So, Gemini, we are in eclipse season, and it is a very fated and destined time astrologically where you can really notice big events happening in your life or the life of those around you. It's very fated. It can bring in destined new beginnings, fated endings, or the acceleration of timelines or course correction. So, getting back on track with your soul's path. Now, the one that I want to mention for you first and foremost, Gemini, is of course the lunar eclipse in Pisces, because this is in a fellow mutable sign. So you're more likely to feel this, especially if you have anything around 3, 4, 5 degrees of the mutables, especially for you because you have Uranus there transiting the ascendant. So a lunar eclipse in the 10th house, this can bring you a lot of recognition. It can really make you more visible. It can really put you in the spotlight, Gemini. There can be big things happening for you in your career or at work. Now, obviously, this is a series of eclipses that has been going on since the end of 2024 and will continue into the beginning of 2027. But this is the final one, I think, of Pisces. And so maybe some of you have already gone through significant career shifts, and this is just a continuation of that storyline. But for others of you, this could be an eclipse that brings you some sort of change in your career or your public image. You know, maybe you're coming into the spotlight with this one. Maybe you are or have taken on more responsibility or power in your job. Maybe there's a title change. Maybe your social status has changed. You know, maybe you got married, maybe you got divorced, maybe you became a doctor, maybe you became a lawyer. Maybe you became a boss, maybe you started a business. But if you haven't done any of those things, this eclipse can trigger something like that. It's in a square to Uranus in your first house. So I think for a lot of you, you may go rogue when it comes to your career. You might be wanting to shake things up. You might be wanting to take on a little bit more of a persona of the maverick. with Uranus going over your ascendant in your first house. This might be a time when you're wanting to do things differently. You're okay with shaking up the status quo. Your image is changing. You're experimenting with style, or you're experimenting with your approach to life. You're just feeling a little bit more unbound by social expectations, which makes it funny because you have a lunar eclipse in the 10th house, which is about your social standing. So for some of you, you could really shock people with a career change. People might think, what? That's not like you. And you think, exactly. It feels as though it actually kind of reminds me of when Lisa and The Simpsons, when they went on vacation and Lisa just took on a completely different persona. It's that kind of energy where you're just willing to shake things up and do things a little bit differently, Gemini. Do take care of yourself though, especially if you have any placements around those degrees, 3, 4, 5 with Uranus there, just because Uranus can sometimes make you a little bit more accident prone, and you might want to take extra care of yourself if that is the case. Maybe be a little bit less of a risk taker with your physical self if you have those degrees. And that's not to scare you, it's just an astrological insight. With Uranus, it can sometimes make you more accident prone. Not always, though. Sometimes this is just about shaking things up and trying something new on for size. For some of you, there may also be important communication, news, insight, clarity when it comes to home, when it comes to your property matter, when it comes to your family. Maybe you learned something about your family that you didn't know. Maybe there's important communications about property matters. Maybe you are helping somebody move. Maybe you have neighbors moving, siblings moving, some sort of shift in the home. But it feels as though the clarity is coming from the home. So having a conversation with your family, having clarity on or about a living situation, having clarity when it comes to even the people that you live with, if you're not related to them, roommates. People can move in and out of the home with an eclipse that is aspecting that Sun-Mercury conjunction as well, Gemini. But it can just be for some of you clarity on how you want to decorate or how you want to make changes to your home. Now, the total solar eclipse in Leo that we have here in your third house, this is happening on the 12th. So this can trigger changes when it comes to your local environment. So neighbors moving away, new neighbors moving in, changes in the life of a sibling, significant events happening in your neighborhood. This can be a time as well where you get a new car or there are changes with your car. With the total solar eclipse in the third house, it could be an entirely new vehicle. I would say, I've noticed that Gemini rising people often are the ones that have the flashy cars, the sports cars or the status symbol cars. And that's even amplified by the fact Jupiter is now going through your third. So for some of you, this could be about getting your dream car or upgrading your car in some way. But then for others of you with the South Node, it's about going back to a brand that maybe. For a lot of you as well, this can foretell fated short distance trips. So you could be traveling around the time of this solar eclipse, Gemini. You could be taking a short trip. If you are, it's probably going to be a lot of fun. Jupiter's there, especially if you're going with a romantic interest, or maybe some of you with Jupiter, because Jupiter rules your children, you're traveling with your kids. Or for some of you, it could also be that you're traveling with your partner because Jupiter rules the 7th house. It feels as though a lot of you could be taking a short trip that is maybe for some reason destined on your path. Maybe you've been there before with the South Node, but it feels like you're meant to be there at that time. Something about it maybe changes your perspective. Something about it resets or refreshes your life, Gemini. Because a lot of people think, what's destined about a short trip, but sometimes you go on a short trip and something does happen. I remember going on a trip when the South Node was going through my third house around the time of the eclipses, and I remember having a conversation that really changed things for me on that trip. I remember the South Node was there. I ran into somebody on that trip that I used to live with years before, and it was also a time where I just resonated with the place. I felt like I'd been there in a past life. So it doesn't sound like it should be fated, but you can absolutely have fated experiences on trips in some way. It's not always obvious. This can also be a time when you take a short course, you study something new, you're very curious or interested in something new, something exciting, something that you feel like you should be studying. You're excited about it. It feels expansive. For a lot of you, this could be really positive for taking short courses and workshops and classes and things like that, Gemini. So do keep your eyes open for things that you want to do and things that you want to learn. Mars is going through your second house, which can be a time where you blow a bit of a hole in your pocket, or you burn a bit of a hole in your pocket. I don't know if that's the right expression. You spend money a little bit more quickly with Mars going through the second house. You can feel more driven to pursue money, but this can also be a time where you spend money that little bit more quickly, especially when it comes to your mood. Money is very influenced by your mood this month, so you could find that you are spending because of your feelings. You know, if you're sad, you want to treat yourself. If you're happy, you want to treat yourself. It can really be a month where you're very focused on your finances. And whether that is the pursuit of money, whether that is enjoying your money, I think for a lot of you, you're really feeling perhaps a bit more speed when it comes to either money flowing in or money flowing out. It can also bring some arguing about money, some arguments about money, rather. It can also bring some heated discussions about your values, Mars here, and perhaps misunderstandings because it's going to square Neptune. It's also going to square Saturn, which can be very frustrating. So I wouldn't recommend lending money to friends this month, Gemini, if you can avoid it, because there could be some frustrations with friends when it comes to resources, with that one in particular. For you, in terms of romance, Venus is going to be going through your fifth house, and this is rather lovely for love. Venus going through the fifth house from the sixth. Great time for dating, great time for romance in your life, getting on better with people socially, having more parties to attend, feeling loved, feeling supported, getting on better with your children as well. Venus going through the fifth house can be a time where you socialize with your kids, you get on better with your kids. If they have events that you're going to, you have a much better time. This can just generally be a lovely one socially and creatively. If you're a creative person, this can be great for creative inspiration and connecting with other like-minded creatives, Gemini. That is what I have for you this month. I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Cancer. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. Cancer, it is, of course, eclipse season, which is an incredibly fated time. So this can be a month of new beginnings, endings, accelerations, course corrections. It's a very fated time indeed. And eclipse season can itself be quite chaotic. But for some of you, from a financial standpoint, this one could be quite interesting. We have a new moon total solar eclipse happening on the 12th of August. And a total solar eclipse can bring about brand new beginnings when it comes to your money, when it happens in the second house. Now, I say brand new, the south node is there, so sometimes this can be about something that has actually been ongoing. So maybe there has been something in the past that was going to bring you money or financial gain. It was owed to you. But for whatever reason, you couldn't have it at the time. Maybe there was a legal matter, or maybe it was just not meant to be at that point. This could be the time where you get it. There could be some sort of new beginning financially where you come into some money or you have a new source of income. For some of you, it could be a lot, with Jupiter there. There could definitely be a financial increase, especially over the next 6 months, Cancer, where maybe there is a new opportunity comes up for you to make more money. Maybe you get a promotion. Maybe, as I say, money that was owed to you from something your hard work and your karma from the past is maybe paying off now. So there's something connected to the past about it, but it feels like new money all the same. So even if you can't imagine what that would be, Cancer, just bear in mind that it can happen. I do remember having a total solar eclipse in my second back in, I think it was 2023, and having out of nowhere an unexpected opportunity to make more money with something. And that's what eclipses do. They kind of bring you serendipitous events sometimes. But for others of you, it can just be about timing. So yes, you could definitely be coming into some money, or there could be a new money path opening up to you over the next couple of months. It does seem that there's communication about it around the time of the eclipse. Mercury is in your second house from the 9th to the 25th, and Mercury shows what you're thinking about. Before then, Mercury is going to be in your sign, having done its retrograde. So if you've been back and forth on something yourself, Cancer, about your approach to life or how you communicate, or you felt a little bit more hesitant to communicate, you're getting more clarity on what it is that you want to say or what you think. But this can also be a time when you start to feel like you're back online, energetically speaking. Mars is going into your sign in the 11th. And Mars, especially when direct, is very different to a Mercury retrograde in the same sign. This is where you have more energy and you're more inspired to take action. It can bring more tension. You can be a little bit more aggressive or irritable when Mars is in your sign. In the sign of Cancer, that can sometimes be a little bit more moody or passive aggressive or self-protective, maybe feeling a bit more defensive or a bit more. You might take things a little bit more personally at this time, even if you're not that way inclined. But it can be a time when you feel like you're really putting a lot of energy and action into something. Just be mindful of going too hard because Mars in the first can also represent accidents or pushing yourself too hard or having some sort of injury. So just bear that in mind. You may have more energy, but you can also burn yourself out also. In your sign, it's a good way to calm down. Having a bath, going for a walk by the ocean, sitting by the sea, something like that can really help you calm down with Mars going through your sign if you're feeling the intensity of it. Venus is going to be going through your fourth house, which is beautiful for the home. Great month from the 6th onwards to get new things for the home, redecorate, spring clean. Well, we're in summer or winter, depending on where you are. It's a great time to invest in new homeware or redecorating. It tends to go better when you've Venus going through the fourth house. You can find yourself, finding the right scented candle or the right throw or the right cushion, just little additions. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it can also be beautiful for having people over to your home, social events in the home, and just generally maybe inviting people into your space that you love. For some of you, that can also be about dating at home, having somebody over for dinner or just, even a social dinner. Anything that involves socializing in the home can go a bit better this month, Cancer. You might be hosting a dinner party or something like that. The lunar eclipse in Pisces. So this is in your 9th house. It's a partial lunar eclipse. It's continuing a cycle that's been going on since the end of 2024. That's when these eclipses started. This could be a time of traveling for some of you. Fated travel, taking a trip somewhere, and it's meaningful. Especially because it's in a square to Uranus in the 12th. These are both houses that represent foreign lands. So maybe some of you have an unexpected opportunity to travel. Cancer, maybe you have an unexpected opportunity to travel for work because you have more responsibility, or you have a lot more going on in your career, or you find that your boss is changing to someone in a foreign country, or someone's visiting you in work. You have people traveling to see you, or you're traveling to see people. Some of it could be quite unexpected and surprising. So maybe even over the next few months, Cancer, you have unexpected opportunities to travel or disruptions to your schedule. Maybe even disruptions to your sleep could be coming up this month with the square to Uranus in the 12th house. Sometimes that can bring disruptions when it comes to sleep. There's a Sun-Mercury conjunction in your 3rd house at the time of that lunar eclipse, which can bring up important communications, emails. I would make sure to check your emails around this point. Some emails could go missing unexpectedly with that square to Uranus, or you might miss them, and they could be important pertaining to a trip or travel. This can also be a time where there is that news about travel or visas or passports. That can be something coming up at this time. I remember having a lunar eclipse in the 9th house and realizing my passport was expiring and having to get that renewed. Things like that can occur, you know. It doesn't have to be life-changing necessarily, especially if it's not hitting your chart, but it could bring up themes of travel, relocation. It can also bring up university or college or higher education as well, Cancer. So maybe that's something that's coming up at this point as well for you. That is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Leo, welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. And if you are a Leo who is born in August and you're watching for your sun sign, a very happy birthday to you, Leo. Leo, this is eclipse season and you are very, very much the main character here. Eclipse season, as we know, it's a time of fated and destined changes, new beginnings, endings, accelerations, revelations, all of these different things can occur during eclipse season. And you very much are the main star of the show here because look at this. Mercury, Jupiter, the total solar eclipse, and the South Node are going to be in your sign this month. And when we have this much activity in your sign during a total solar eclipse, this one can bring a rebranding. This one can absolutely bring a new start for you individually, where you're stepping into a new role, you're stepping into the world differently. You're maybe changing your image, especially your hair, with Leo being your sign. Maybe you're having a makeover. Some of you are going through a glow up. Maybe you're just changing the way that you approach the world. Maybe you're going through physical changes. Maybe you are embracing a new version of yourself, but also reconnecting to an old version of yourself. I often find when the South Node goes through your sign, your sun sign or your first house, this tends to be a time of reconnection with self, where you actually let go of masks that you wear, ways that you show up to the world that aren't truly who you are. They're who you think other people want you to be, or they're how you feel other people would be more comfortable seeing you. So this can bring up perhaps this need to be smiling all the time or happy all the time to put other people at ease, instead of just being able to show up and say, hey, I'm not really having that great a day. It's instead of taking on this persona to make other people happy, it's about reconnecting with yourself. Maybe that's just an example. That doesn't have to apply to you. But it can be about reconnecting to parts of yourself that you haven't got to experience in a while, that you haven't got to tap into in a while. And there'll definitely be, fated meetings on the horizon for you with the North Node in Aquarius. People coming into your path to help you reconnect to yourself, to help you let go of old ways of coping with life or being, and really help you expand the version of yourself that you are now and open you up to new possibilities and open you up to life and maybe bring in more travel and more creativity and more joy and more fun and more pleasure. So this is indeed a new branding for you, a rebranding, Leo, where you can absolutely become a new version of yourself this month for sure. It's at 20 degrees of Leo, so if you have any factors at 19, 20, 21 of Leo, this one is absolutely affecting you. Very significant new beginning for a lot of you. Now, the lunar eclipse, which is a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, is happening on the 28th, and this is happening in your 8th house. So, since 2025, we've had these eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, and the 8th house can be difficult. Maybe over the last 2 years, you could have experienced loss, you could have experienced crisis, you could have experienced some sort of change in your life that really was an absolute change. And this eclipse may not trigger more of the same. It could actually be a time when you're releasing some emotions that need to be released. It can be an emotional catharsis where maybe you are dealing with a pattern or grief or endings or losses in your life. And maybe the square to Mercury is saying it's maybe time to redefine your vision of the future. This could be a time where something has changed and it unexpectedly then changes your vision of the future or your version of the future. How those types of changes can occur and we realize that the future doesn't look in any way the same as what we anticipated before. So maybe some of you are experiencing that. Maybe there's also some changes with your friendships. The square to Uranus can bring changes in your friendship circle, with your friends. Maybe you have a friend going through a crisis. Maybe for some of you as well, Leo, you have some sort of unexpected financial change occurring. This could be good or bad. It's just a change. And for a lot of you, there can be clarity on a financial matter or financial situation, or there could be news about money at the time of that eclipse, thanks to the Sun-Mercury conjunction. The Sun is your sign, so connecting with Mercury you're discussing your finances, you're discussing money, you're thinking about money. You're maybe having an idea or some sort of revelation when it comes to your finances. Now, Mars is going through your 12th house this month, and when Mars goes through the 12th, as it will be for you from the 11th, and that'll continue into September, Mars going through the 12th house can be a little bit energetically draining. You can just sort of feel at points like you're cheesed off with the world and you just want to retreat. You just want to be alone. You just want to be by yourself. Maybe some of you want to travel solo this month or you're planning a solo trip. Maybe some of you just want to retreat into your shell and take care of yourself, take care of your emotional health and your well-being, your mental health. Mars going through the 12th can sometimes bring about sleep disturbances or nightmares, particularly about the past with the sign of Cancer being involved, or about home or about family. So just be mindful of that. Mars can trigger those, and it's sort of showing you your subconscious fear so that you can confront it with Mars going through the 12th. So just watch for that. We also have Venus going through the 3rd. And when Venus is in domicile in the 3rd, which is lovely, this can be a really nice time to socialize with neighbors, with siblings, to catch up with your friends, to be active in your community. This is a nice time to socialize, mingle. When you're out and about having your day-to-day experience, things can go a little bit better. You notice people are talking to you more, connecting with you more. You're maybe feeling a little bit more socially graceful as well, Leo. But it is a nice one for connecting with siblings, connecting with neighbors, socializing locally, or short trips are favored at this time as well. Jupiter is trining Saturn on the 31st, and Jupiter is in your sign in a trine to Saturn in the 9th. I think a lot of you could be committed to learning something that really expands your life. Maybe you're feeling very enthusiastic and excited about something and you're going to commit to studying it. With Saturn going through the 9th house, you're very discerning about who you learn from, your teachers and your mentors, but you can find ones that they take their craft very seriously. Sometimes as well in higher education, this can bring karmic experiences with mentors or guides or teachers. But because of the trine to Jupiter here, I feel for a lot of you, Leo, you could connect with the right teacher at the right time or really commit to studying or traveling with this particular aspect. That is what I have for you, Leo. I hope you have a wonderful month and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Virgo, and welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. So, Virgo, August is welcoming in eclipse season. And as we know, eclipse seasons act as points of acceleration in our life. Things can speed up. There can be sudden transformations, endings, beginnings. You can have really intense revelations about your life, about different situations. And it can also bring some sort of karmic course correction. So essentially during eclipse season, it's always important to put some trust in the universe that what is meant to be will be, because it is a very fated time. And particularly for you, because you are one of the signs that is going to be experiencing these eclipses most intensely. The lunar eclipse in your opposite sign, Pisces, is going to be happening on the 28th of the month. And this continues the series of eclipses that we have had in your sign and your opposite sign since the autumn time of 2024. And this is a continuation of those eclipses. Now, the nodes have changed signs, but the storylines of those eclipses are still playing out. So the lunar eclipse itself is happening in your relationship sector. The 7th house is about our committed partnerships and relationships, so your significant other, your spouse. It can be a business partnership. It can be a very close relationship in your life. And when we have lunar eclipses here, especially in a tight square to Uranus, this can bring some change. This can bring sudden change. It can bring disruption. But oftentimes with eclipses, none of this is entirely new. This tends to be something that has been ongoing or something that has been discussed or something that has been present in your system. So with a lunar eclipse in the 7th house, it can accelerate events forward in relationships. So in happy relationships, that can be enhancing the relationship in some way, shape, or form, talking about the next steps, commitments, marriages, that type of thing. For unhappy relationships, these eclipses can shake up separations or endings. And this can be in a romantic context, but it can also be in a business context, Virgo, because there is a square to Uranus in the 10th house and it's a tight square. So there can be disruptions, there can be conversations that come up with your ruler conjunct the sun at this time involved in this mutable T square. You may have something to say, you may have something to communicate. Important conversations could be happening with you and a key person in your life. They could be a little bit disruptive, shocking, or unexpected in some ways, but it also can be a chance for you to have some sort of a revelation due to the information that you're thinking about, the clarity that you're having with the Sun Mercury Cazimi in your sign, which is bringing you clarity of mind, clarity of thought, but it can be a little bit disruptive in your life for sure, this one, because it is triggering your angular houses. So the lunar eclipse can shake up your relationships, your close connections, but it can also bring unexpected developments when it comes to your career as well. Do pay attention for the conversations you're having in the second half of the month because it feels as though you may have something to say. It feels as though a lot of it's coming from you with the Sun and Mercury conjunct in your sign. You have something to say, you have something to declare, you have thought about something, you've had some sort of mental breakthrough with the square to Uranus. Do take care of your mental health because we have a lot of activity happening here in your 12th house of behind the scenes. This is what's going on with you privately. But the 12th house is about your mental health, and that solar eclipse that's happening there on the 12th of August. The total solar eclipse in Leo is happening in your 12th. So Jupiter is there. Jupiter is a lovely energy to have through the 12th, believe it or not. It acts as a bit of a guardian angel. It can bring you a lot of healing. It can bring you healing through information, and it can help you tap into wisdom when it comes to your unconscious mind. So it can shine a pretty bright light there. Jupiter in Leo in your 12th house, it can bring a lot of illumination to what's going on with you internally, your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind. And the South Node is acting as a little bit of a cosmic Hoover going through this sector and kind of saying, hey, do you think maybe there's a pattern here? Or hey, this is limiting you, or hey, this is self-sabotage, or anything that really feels as though maybe you're getting in your own way, or anything that is outdated and needs to be released can absolutely come up this month. Especially from the 9th to the 25th, because Mercury, your ruler, will be going through the 12th. So you might be feeling a bit hermity. Your archetype in the tarot is the hermit. And with so much in the 12th house, you may feel like you want to be alone. You may feel as though you need more downtime. You may feel as though you need more time to rest, more time to recuperate, more time to recover. You might just not be as energetic as you usually are. But the new moon solar eclipse, because it's a total solar eclipse, it is absolutely kickstarting a new beginning here behind the scenes for you. So something is beginning in your life, Virgo, that you're keeping to yourself. Maybe you're keeping quite private. It's not that you would necessarily not tell anybody, but new beginnings in the 12th house can sometimes be where you're, for example, starting therapy or seeing a therapist or getting help for something from a mental health perspective. And maybe you don't feel as comfortable telling the world about it. So this could be that you're working on something behind the scenes. You're working on your own healing, resting, how you take care of your mental health is changing. You're learning new things about it. You're expanding your knowledge about your spiritual side, your healing journey. You're probably getting a lot of information with Mercury conjunct Jupiter on the 15th. Maybe you're having some sort of epiphany when it comes to your mental health, your spiritual health, your well-being, or again, with the 12th house being a place of releasing, you could be having humbling realizations of where you are self-sabotaging yourself or getting in your own way. So it feels with that solar eclipse, Virgo, faded new beginnings happening for you behind the scenes, things that you're keeping private, at least for now. Things that you're working on privately, maybe from a mental health perspective, maybe from a spiritual perspective. You could be more interested in sleep and rest generally, and how you take care of your mental health is going to be on your mind, especially in the first half of the month. So, new moon total solar eclipses in the 12th. They can also trigger endings that are beginnings. So, it may be at this time with this eclipse that you have deep, soulful realizations within you of what it is that you need to release, what it is that you need to let go of. And that can oftentimes be a pattern or a behavior that you're wanting to get on top of, you're wanting to release, and you're wanting to let go of in August. But that is part of a longer 6 month cycle. So bear in mind that you may have very vivid dreams this month, or very profound therapy sessions this month, or something that really helps you recognize what it is that you want to change, what would be empowering for you to change with all this Leo energy in your 12th house. So I do think for a lot of you, your mind will become very clear in the second half of the month, especially as Mercury transits towards your sign from the 25th. You're more aware of yourself when Mercury is in your sign. You're more aware of your own thoughts. You're more discerning of what is an original thought for you rather than what you're absorbing from other people with this energy here. Mars is going through Cancer this month, and that is your 11th house. And Mars shows where our actions are, where there's enhanced activity, but where there can also be a bit of aggression. So there can be a little bit of passive aggressive behavior, maybe online on the internet, from you or from someone towards you. There can also be perhaps some tension in friendships at points if somebody feels very protective over themselves or over their feelings. You can notice people become a little bit more defensive and self-protective with the Mars in Cancer energy. You can be a little bit moody when it comes to socializing as well with this aspect. It will really depend on your mood, Virgo, which is very likely considering you have so much going on behind the scenes. It feels as though you would be rather discerning in who you socialize with Mars going through your 11th house. But it can also bring more social opportunities here because it can ramp up that energy. So maybe more friends are asking you for help, or they're asking you to help them cook or cook for them, or go to dinner or go to a bakery or go to a cafe. Whatever the case may be, it feels as though there could be a lot of social activity that is available to you. Whether or not you want to show up is another matter entirely, Virgo, with this energy. One thing that may be improving for you this month with Venus in domicile in Libra is your money. So with Venus going through the second house, this can make you a magnet for money. It can make you a magnet for material blessings. People might give you gifts for no reason. You might find yourself attracting things for free. You might find yourself, whenever you're out, seeing beautiful things that you want to buy as well. Venus in Libra is domicile, so it's very strong here. This can absolutely be a time where you notice some financial improvements, especially as it is making a trine to Uranus in your 10th. So this money can come from sudden career changes or breakthroughs, but it also comes from Pluto going through your 6th house. Maybe some of you are changing roles, changing jobs, and it can bring some sort of financial enhancement. That is what I have for you this month, Virgo. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Libra, welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. Libra, welcome to eclipse season. This is one of the most fated times of the year that can bring sudden endings, sudden beginnings, significant shifts, an acceleration of a storyline in your life, or an unexpected event in your life occurring. It can certainly be a time where we need to surrender a little bit and put our faith in the universe. But whatever's happening for you, Libra, this month, you're looking good. Venus is in your sign, and we're all so happy for Venus to be in your sign because Venus is domicile in Libra. So with Venus going through your first house, you are enhanced when it comes to your charm and your social graces and your beauty and your gregariousness, and you're a magnet for love, you're a magnet for blessings, you're a magnet for gifts, and you're a magnet for connection. Now, that is to say, Venus in your sign is going to come into an opposition with Saturn on the 21st of the month, and you may be weighing up your commitments in our relationships versus your own needs. So, the restraints and responsibilities or commitments that you have pertaining to another person, or maybe your views on relationships versus what you need, want, and expect for yourself, can be a bit of a tug of war going on there. Now, the eclipse is this month, so let's start with the solar eclipse. It's a total solar eclipse in Leo, and it's happening on the 12th of the month. And your Leo house, your 11th house, is pretty packed as it is, so you could really expect this to be a social month, Libra. Could be new social opportunities happening for you. In some cases, you may meet entirely new people who are exciting and new and fun and open. They could be from different countries with Jupiter going through your 11th, or you could meet them through education or higher study, or they could be very learned people. But you might actually also reconnect with people from the past, Libra, with the South Node going through your 11th house. This can be where you are reconnecting with people you were once in a team with, you used to be friends with, you haven't seen in a while. There can be a sense of familiarity when it comes to people in your teams, groups, and your social life, with so much happening in the 11th house, including the South Node. This can also be a time where maybe if a friendship or your time in a team has come to an end, this is the month where the exit happens. But with a total solar eclipse in the 12th house, Libra, these events can play out over the next 6 months. But it is a good sign to note on the day of the eclipse what is actually happening. So maybe you notice around the eclipse that certain new people are joining a team you're a part of, or you're getting a social invitation from somebody. Pay attention to the people that show up for you socially at this time, or what experiences you're having socially at this time. Can be a very big clue as to what's going on over the next 6 months. But I do feel here with Mercury, Jupiter, the solar eclipse, the South Node, could be a very busy month when it comes to activity within a group, within a team, within a club. For some of you, over the next 6 months, you could be joining a new team, getting a new membership, somewhere where you can shine, somewhere that's fun, somewhere that feels good, feels optimistic, feels creative. You could be moving in some creative circles. But I would expect with the South Node there to include some people that you've probably encountered before, or having a sense of deja vu about new friends and social connections that you're meeting this month, Libra. Now, the lunar eclipse, it's a partial lunar eclipse. It's happening in Pisces. We're familiar with this energy. This is a continuation on the series of eclipses that began in around August 2024. It was either August or September 2024, but I think it was August. This eclipse is happening in your 6th house. So this can bring up changes when it comes to your job. This could be changes due to your team, because we do have Jupiter, the dispositor of the eclipse, in the 11th. We also have Neptune, the modern day dispositor of the eclipse, in the 7th. So I feel as though the changes that are happening in your job or in your workplace involve a team, or involve a partnership, involve a relationship. It's very people focused, these changes that are happening in your job or at the gym. Pay attention to who you meet at the gym, or the gym that you go to, or if you're changing your gym membership, or maybe you're changing the exercises that you do and you're joining a new group socially that helps you get fit with this lunar eclipse in the 6th. It can also trigger health changes that make you think more about the future, or make you think about getting a personal trainer or a doctor or somebody who can consult with you about what needs to change, or the changes that you do want to make. But for a lot of you, it can be job changes. It can be co-workers leaving, colleagues leaving. It can be many changes happening in your job or with the services you provide, or the role that you provide as well, Libra, with that lunar eclipse. So it feels as though for you this month, Libra, there could be a lot of social activity, a lot happening in your social life. But I also feel as though you might have some sort of intuitive clarity with the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi in your 12th house about your job, or about the role that you play, or the services that you provide, or about what you want to change health-wise potentially. It may also be clarity on a self-sabotaging behavior that you would like to refine this month. That's one way that this may play out for you as well, Libra. Now, Mars is going to be going through your 10th house. Your 10th house has been relatively active over the last couple of years. You know, there was a Mars retrograde in 2025 in this sector. Jupiter entered this sector in 2025 and just left a couple of months ago. And then we had the Mercury retrograde here. So this is putting a lot of focus on your career and your goals. Mars going through the 10th house makes one very ambitious. So you may be feeling as though you have goals that you want to achieve, maybe based on a sense of security. Maybe you're doing this for your home or your family, or the goals operate around home and family. Maybe your mood affects your drive in your career and you're really paying attention to your moods and your feelings, Libra. But I do think a lot of you are going to want to achieve some sort of goal. It can bring a bit of tension at work or in your career. Mars going through the 10th is when we can butt heads with a boss or an authority figure. It can also be a time where we're more driven to be our own boss and to take ownership of our own stuff and our own career. So you may be feeling more driven this month when it comes to your own personal goals as well, Libra. That is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026 and welcome to eclipse season. This is one of the most fated times of the year when destined events can occur, things can speed up. There can be sudden endings, realizations, fated new beginnings. It can absolutely be a time where things just really ramp up energetically, and sometimes that can feel very intense, Scorpio. And I do feel that you're one of the signs that may be feeling a bit more intensity than some of the others, because we do have a total solar eclipse in your 10th house of career, of public image, your public persona, your brand, your reputation, how you're known in the world. And a solar eclipse going through this zone, Scorpio, for some of you, this can actually bring you fame or recognition because Jupiter is there and it's a total solar eclipse. So it's one of those situations where for some of you, there can be the sort of exposure or publicity where you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So this can be a very important time in your career. Now, some of you will not be interested in public recognition for something. This could actually be that you are beginning a whole new chapter in your career, Scorpio. Now, it's not entirely new because we do have the South Node here. So there is a sense that this is something that you've maybe wanted for a while. This is maybe something that you worked on in the past, you tried to do in the past, and now you're thinking, I'm going to give this another go with the wisdom, the changed behavior, the changed perspectives. So for a lot of you, you could begin something new professionally this month, or at least get the ball rolling. You know, sometimes the knowledge is half the battle, knowing what it is that you want to do. You're going to think a lot about your career with Mercury going through Leo from the 9th to the 25th. It's going to be what's on your mind. You're going to think about your goals. You're going to think about your ambitions. You're going to be having conversations at work. It's going to be busy. And you're ready for something new. You're ready for a new professional path. For some of you, it's nothing to do with career. You could be of retirement age. You could be, if you're not working at the moment, there may be something that comes up for you that you would be interested in that it is time to go into. You know, you may feel a bit of a calling in a direction career-wise. But if you're not interested in career, the 10th house can generally be goals of yours, Scorpio, and it can bring up what you're known for. You know, for some of you, that could be retirement because you're thinking, actually, I've done this for all this time. I want to pursue this. So there can be title changes for some of you, retirement, or you could be posting about yourself on social media and your new goals and your new hobbies and the fact that you're maybe becoming a grandparent or you are becoming a parent, or there's something new about your status change, Scorpio, but it feels as though it resonates with your soul. It doesn't feel like it's something entirely new necessarily. But with Jupiter there, this can really be a time of good luck when it comes to your career and advancement. The downside of it is that being more visible means more exposure, and sometimes there are things that you don't necessarily want the world to know about, maybe from your past. And that is something that could also be relevant for some of you with the South Node there as well. But it feels for the most part, Scorpio, like exciting new beginnings when it comes to your career, when it comes to your public image. The full moon partial lunar eclipse is happening in the 28th in your 5th house, and this is a continuation of the series of eclipses that goes back to about August, September 2024. And a lunar eclipse in the fifth house, something could be coming up with your children if you have them. And they don't have to be your children that are under 18. This can be about your adult children, your grown children. This can be about your grandchildren as well. It can bring up matters pertaining to children. A lunar eclipse in the fifth house. It can also bring up pregnancies. Maybe for some of you, pregnancies that come as quite a surprise, as this full moon is in a square to Uranus. And it can also be a time where maybe some of you are getting ready to give birth as well. Maybe the date is a little unexpected for you. If you're due to give birth in August, maybe there's an unexpected change with the date, thanks to that square to Uranus as well. Uranus can sometimes surprise us a little bit. Now, the lunar eclipse in the fifth house can also bring up matters pertaining to your love life. So maybe you are releasing a romantic connection if it's not working, or maybe you are falling in love, or there's some sort of acceleration in a romantic relationship. And this can also be a time where if you are a creative, you could feel really creatively inspired, and there could be some sort of creative download with Pisces energy. You could be channeling something and you could write a really amazing song out of nowhere about your past trauma, maybe with the square to Uranus, or about a challenging event in your life. You could really be wanting to express yourself creatively, Scorpio, especially publicly, because Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces and it's in your 10th. But it can also be because Neptune, the modern ruler of Pisces, is in your 6th, that you're wanting to express yourself creatively in your job, your roles, your services generally. So I feel as though a lot of you are bringing a creative energy into your work this month, Scorpio. That could certainly be something, or you could be having, if you have children, they could be having their moment in the spotlight as well. Or maybe for some of you, that's a pregnancy announcement, a birth announcement, a wedding announcement, posting your wedding pictures or something like that online, or showcasing your new romantic relationship online as well. I do feel with this eclipse that there is some unexpected energy when it comes to shared resources and finances, something unexpectedly pertaining to money when it comes to children, or when it comes to your love life, or when it comes to your social life generally, or just a conversation happens maybe with a friend or online or in social media that triggers a response in you that you realize you want to work on and you want to liberate yourself from. So liberating yourself from a pattern or behavior or an old trauma that gets jarred by something somebody says or somebody does with that lunar eclipse as well. Certainly bringing into the forefront matters pertaining to your creativity, to your love life, to your children if you have them. And just generally, this might also be a lunar eclipse where perhaps there's an unexpected opportunity to do something fun, but is a little bit different to what you're used to doing, Scorpio, thanks to that square to Uranus. Socially and relationship-wise, Venus is going to be in Libra for most of the month from the 6th onwards. And this can really be a time where you are maybe feeling a little bit more low-key socially, maybe feeling a little bit more behind the scenes, even though we have planets start to move into Virgo, which is a very social sector for you. You might be feeling a little bit more low-key and wanting to keep your circle small. You might be feeling as though you need more time to recharge socially, and you may also be keeping your relationships more private at this time, Scorpio. For some of you, it's about displaying a new romance to the world. For others of you, it's about keeping your relationships low-key and sort of more chilled, with Venus going through the 12th house. Mars is going through Cancer this month, and Mars enters Cancer on the 11th. And when Mars goes through your 9th house, it tends to give you a little bit more of an incentive to travel. So you might be booking a trip, you might be traveling with family. That could certainly happen with Mars and Cancer in the 9th house. You could be traveling to see family, family could be traveling to see you. You might just be more motivated to take a trip, to travel somewhere, to do more things in that trip, to be more active. But some of you could also feel a little bit more argumentative about belief systems too, with Mars going through the 9th. Sometimes arguments with mentors or teachers can come up with that one also. But I do also feel a lot of you could be feeling very inspired to study something or learn something. So if you have exams, Mars going through the 9th can give you a bit of a ramp up when it comes to studying, when it comes to writing the essay, When it comes to getting your work in on time, Mars can really drum up your desire to learn, to get more information, to study more, and to get out there and explore the world, Scorpio. And that is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. So, Sagittarius, this is eclipse season. And eclipse season is a very fated and destined time in the year. It's a time where there are great points of acceleration. Things speed up, storylines speed up, the inevitable speeds up, and sudden endings occur, sudden breakthroughs occur, sudden new beginnings occur. And all of these feel rather fated and destined and somewhat out of our control. I mean, sometimes they can be changes that we make because of very profound revelations and realizations that we have. So, how is this going to manifest for you? Well, the new moon, total solar eclipse in Leo, which is happening on the 12th of August, is in a fellow fire sign. So, this one is it's harmonious with your energy because it is in a fellow fire sign. And it's happening in a lucky house too. It's happening in the ninth house. And oftentimes, when there is a solar eclipse in the ninth house, it inspires a trip or a voyage or some sort of perhaps sabbatical or travel arrangement or relocation. But this doesn't have to happen in August. It absolutely could because we have so much activity in Leo in your ninth house. But it could be that over the next 6 months, Sagittarius, you're going to be taking a significant trip. Now, I will say, I think for a lot of you, this is somewhere that you've been before because we have the South Node in the ninth house. But it can also be somewhere where if you have not been before in this lifetime, you may arrive there and it feels incredibly familiar. And that's because you may have been there in a past life. So when the South Node goes through the ninth house, this can often be a time where we feel a sense of soul calling to where we go and deja vu, and there can be fated experiences with travel experiences. There can be fated opportunities to travel that come in out of nowhere as well. And that happened to me with the solar eclipse in my ninth house. One year I had an opportunity to go on a trip with a group of people that was given to me, and I've never forgotten it. So there can be fated opportunities to take a trip or a voyage or even relocate for some of you because, Jupiter is your ruler and it's in the ninth house. So maybe you're interested in foreign places and getting out of your routine environment, especially because the lunar eclipse is in your fourth house of homes. Maybe for some of you, you are considering a relocation this month. But it can also bring new opportunities when it comes to study, when it comes to furthering your education. So, a new course of study, starting university, starting college, leaving university, leaving college, graduating. You could be drawn in a new direction, maybe to do a PhD or a master's. Higher education could be something that you're pursuing at this time, Sagittarius, absolutely. And pay attention to the people that you meet through higher education. They may feel familiar. They may bring a sense of deja vu, or you could even run into people that you have known from the past through travel or through study. This can be where you go to a foreign country and you see someone that you used to know. That happened to me actually when the South Node was going through my ninth a few years ago. I went to a foreign country and ended up seeing somebody that I used to live with. So it can happen. You can run into people from your past on trips. It can also be that maybe you are just feeling that sense of soul calling to go somewhere specific. And you can certainly have fated experiences on these travels. Jupiter going through the ninth is usually quite lovely for travel. You tend to feel really enriched on a soul level from it. You get wisdom, you get experience, and you come away with a lot of good stories with this much energy in the ninth house also. It can be a time too, Sagittarius, actually, when your belief systems shift in some way. You get a new perspective, you see things differently, you take on a different viewpoint. And that can be something you're exploring with this new moon total solar eclipse as well. Now, as I mentioned, the lunar eclipse is in your fourth house of home, family, and there could be big things happening at home with your property, maybe things that are unexpected with the square to Uranus. Things you may have to seek professional help with Mercury and the Sun conjunct in the 10th house. But it can just be changes with your family. Things can be going on with family members, things can be coming up with parents. The North Node is in the third now, though, so things can come up with siblings as well. Some of these things may surprise you, Sagittarius. There can be surprises as well with your significant other, your spouse, your partner. There can be something comes up legally pertaining to a house, a home, or even career-wise, thanks to that mutable T-square in your 10th, 4th, and 7th. But the Sun Mercury conjunction in the 10th makes me think, Sagittarius, that there's important conversations and news coming up with authority figures or at your workplace or with your boss or when it comes to your career. And these can also be mental breakthroughs. Hopefully, not mental breakdowns, but mental breakthroughs when it comes to your career, your purpose. So pay attention to the ideas that start to come up for you in the second half of the month when it comes to work, when it comes to career. But for most of you, the changes will be focusing on your home, your living situation, your living environment, who you're living with, and where you want to live. As I say, I think some of you could maybe be in a situation where if Uranus rattled your seventh house and you wanted to be free of a relationship, for example, you may start to think, I might move abroad. I might just travel to a different country and go live there. Or, there can be maybe opportunities for your partner in their career to go away for a couple of months and then you're living alone for a couple of months. Different experiences will come up for different people, but it's really triggering your home, your living situation, who you're living with, who's in your home, what's happening with the property, and what's happening with your relationships and your career as well, Sagittarius. Now, your eighth house, we recently had a Mercury retrograde here, Jupiter was here, and then in 2025, we actually had a Mars retrograde here. So it's been getting a lot of activity over the last couple of years. And with Mars going through your eighth house, sometimes this can bring disputes about money. It can bring disputes about finances, inheritances, taxes. It can bring irritation with these things as well, anger with these things. It can also be a time when you're maybe feeling more passionate in your relationships, particularly with a partner. And it can also be a time where if you're wanting to tackle some sort of pattern or past trauma, this can be a time when you really feel that you have the energy for it with Mars being there because Mars brings action, it brings energy. And in the sign of Cancer, this can be about tackling family baggage or past trauma pertaining to the home or the family. But it can also be recognizing where maybe you have a wall up or where you've been a little bit defensive or a little bit passive aggressive with something. Mars here can bring a sense of directness to a situation that either you're feeling that way in or you're feeling that somebody else is in, Sagittarius. Now, Venus is going to be going through your 11th house for most of the month. It's going to enter Libra on the 6th. This is beautiful for your social life, connecting with friends, more social opportunities, more social invitations, more pleasant social experiences, especially if you're doing something with a partner, as it's trining Uranus in your 7th. So, an unexpected social event with a partner or a relationship or meeting somebody, socializing if you're single, someone who's maybe a bit different to your usual type. You're introduced through a friend or through a group or through a team. But it can also just be that you're getting on better with your friendships and your relationships. Some of you might also be socializing with siblings, neighbors as well, Sagittarius. That is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Capricorn, welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. Capricorn, it is eclipse season this month, and as we know in astrology, eclipse seasons are very fated times. This is where we have sudden new beginnings, sudden endings, revelations, accelerations, and it is quite an intense time. Now, how might this be affecting you, Capricorn? Well, let's start with the total solar eclipse in Leo. Total solar eclipses are incredibly significant. The hint is in their totality. So, a solar eclipse tends to bring about a significant new beginning in one's life. Now, as much as it is a new beginning, there is some element of the past attached to it because it is a south node eclipse. And that can also be that perhaps in order to embrace something new, you have to do a little bit of letting go. So when we have a total solar eclipse in the 8th house, this can sometimes bring about new financial matters, significant financial developments. So this could be a new source of financial support. This could bring changes in the money of a spouse or a partner, or money that you receive from the government. It can bring up loans, inheritances, taxes. There can be significant financial changes happening around the time of this eclipse or over the next 6 months. Now, this could also be that you're taking an approach to one of these things. So maybe you're deciding it's time to get a mortgage. Saturn is in your fourth house, your ruler. You're wanting to get a mortgage, or you're wanting to remortgage a home, or you're wanting to pursue some kind of loan or investment, or you and your partner are having discussions about what direction to go in financially, or you're wanting to pay off debt. That can happen when we have the South Node going through the eighth house. Somebody wants to pay off a debt. And the eighth house can also bring up emotionally intense matters. So sometimes this can be a time period, Capricorn, where there is some sort of a crisis in your life. Something has happened that has emotionally disrupted you. Maybe you've felt very intensely about it, and it can drum up a new beginning of some kind. So, say you have been through a loss. A solar eclipse in the eighth house can be where you work on that. You work with a therapist, you work with a counselor. For some of you, it can be working with an astrologer or a shaman or someone in the eighth house domain, maybe more of an interest in the occult. I'm not forecasting a loss for any of you. This is a general horoscope. It's just that the eighth house can sometimes bring about some kind of an emotional crisis. It can also bring about the type of connections in your life that move you in some way. Someone's presence, even if it's only for 5 minutes, even if you only meet them once, something about their presence triggers something in you where you think, I would like to make changes that can get me there with this solar eclipse. So it could be a time, Capricorn, where you're really wanting to transform something, to change something in your life, maybe because of a fated meeting or because of a fated change or by some kind of crisis. You're really seeking to transform something in your life with a total solar eclipse in the eighth house. Can this sometimes coincide with losses? Yes, the eighth house in nature can bring the different, changes that are inevitable in life, but not necessarily pleasant. But for most of you with a solar eclipse in the eighth house, you can actually find with the South Node there, it's more about releasing baggage from the past more than anything else. So you might be going through some sort of healing journey with a solar eclipse being in the eighth house. And you're very supported there, because Jupiter can bring gains and wisdom wherever it goes. So maybe this means that your partner's money is increasing. Maybe this means that you're getting financial support easier, you're getting more financial support. Maybe this is you're meeting mentors and guides and very wise people who can help you with your mental health or your healing journey. That can be something that's triggered within this eclipse as well, Capricorn. Now, the full moon partial lunar eclipse is happening in your third house. So this can highlight matters with a sibling. This can highlight matters with a neighbor. This can also be about your mindset, the way that you think, your viewpoints. This can also be for you, Capricorn, that maybe it's time to get rid of a car or transition your car, to get a new car. Lunar eclipses, these storylines have been going on for a couple of years. And a partial lunar eclipse can be a time where there's some point of release or emotional revelation. So maybe it's that there's something happening in the life of a sibling, Capricorn, that you're interested to observe, you're interested to see. They could surprise you. Maybe they're surprising you with a sudden job change, the square to Uranus. Maybe they're surprising you with information. Maybe they're doing something out of the ordinary, or there's something out of the ordinary happening with a neighbor or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle. And it can also be a time where you have a complete shift in perspective because of a conversation, not necessarily the easiest conversation, with someone that you work with or somebody at the gym or something like that. It could also be that you're getting surprising news, Capricorn. Surprising information, shocking information comes to you. I feel for a lot of you with the Sun Mercury conjunction at the time of this eclipse, it's happening in your ninth house. I feel like you're seeing the bigger picture. I feel as though you could be communicating about a passport or a visa or something legal or making travel plans or assessing your viewpoint. It could trigger some sort of change in faith or really bring your faith to the forefront, Capricorn, if you are a person who has strong belief systems. or supportive belief systems. There could be something happening health-wise or work-wise that maybe triggers you to reevaluate your perspectives and your mindsets and your beliefs as well, Capricorn. But certainly pay attention to that eclipse for things coming up with neighbors, siblings, relatives. As I say, it can also be a change in car. For some of you, it can be a change in commute. But for a lot of you, it could simply be a change in perspective or some surprising news linked to your job, your day job, your routines, your health, your wellness, that type of thing. Capricorn can come up around the time of this eclipse. Mars is going to be going through your seventh house for most of the month. Mars actually enters Cancer on the 11th. Now, obviously, we've just had a Mercury retrograde here. So, hearing that one of the malefics is going through it might not necessarily sound so good. But Mars going through the seventh house can be very dynamic. This can be a time where you feel really inspired to tackle something with a partner or with a relationship. Now, this can mean that you and a partner are a little bit more touchy with each other. There can be conflict, there can be disagreements, it can feel a bit more intense, but it can also feel more passionate, Capricorn, with Mars going through the seventh house. This can also be a time where you and someone are working on something together and you're feeling really driven and you're helping each other with a project you want to work on. Can be touchy with relationships, but it can also be very dynamic, and you might find that you want to address something that has been only looked at passively or not discussed as directly as you need it to. You can also feel a little bit more moody with a partner, with Mars going through the seventh house as well, Capricorn. Venus is going to be going through your 10th. And when Venus goes through the 10th house, this can be a really positive time for work and career. Venus enters Libra on the 6th and will be there for the rest of the month. And Venus going through the 10th can gain you favor with bosses and mentors, and you can be seen very favorably at your job. So if you have a performance review, this can go very well. There can be promotions, there can be positive social events at work, there can be relationships at work that go very well. And it can just generally be a time where you are able to, you're more publicly visible in a positive way. So you might attract more compliments from people, particularly in the workplace. People might compliment your aesthetic, your workwear, and you might just generally feel like Mr. or Mrs. Popular in the workplace as well, Capricorn. That is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi Aquarius, welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. So Aquarius, this is eclipse season and you're going to want to pay attention to this one because it is involving you. So when we have eclipses in the first house or the seventh house, we tend to be most impacted. And with this solar eclipse, this total solar eclipse happening in your seventh house, this could be a very fated and destined time when it comes to your relationships. So when it comes to your significant other, your marriage, your spouse, your best friend, maybe your business relationship, your business partnership, there could be a complete new beginning. And this one is significant because it is a total solar eclipse. And when we have a total solar eclipse, something tends to begin in a very substantial way. So something quite significant. The clue is in the name. It's significant in its totality. So for a lot of you, this could be the month where a significant relationship change occurs or the ball starts to roll on that change. So for some of you, if you are single, this solar eclipse could absolutely bring in a new partnership, a new relationship. Now, they could actually be someone you've met before. They could even be someone you've been in a relationship with before, but they can also be someone that you've known in a past life. So someone who just feels familiar. You just, the second you see them, you think, I know you, you're familiar, I resonate with you. And they may be someone who's very interested in their career, their public image, or they're very jolly or very optimistic or very outgoing. But it essentially could be triggering a new relationship for many of you. For some of you, it could be a future spouse or someone that you just get into a long-term relationship with, or a significant relationship generally, just a significant partnership in your life or somebody who's meant to be on your path. As I say, this could also be someone from the past with the South Node, but it does not have to be. I find that the South Node can bring you back into contact with exes when it goes through the seventh house, but it can also bring you into contact with people where there is just that resonance. The second you see them, you just recognize them for some reason. And with Jupiter there, this can be a really positive time in terms of relationship expansion. Now, obviously, for others of you, and you would know at this point, I imagine, but if your relationship is not working, this can also be a time of leaving a relationship. And with Jupiter going through the seventh, you tend to feel, oftentimes people feel better about it. They feel more free, they feel more optimistic. And for some of you, it could be that you're leaving one relationship and actually meeting somebody else. Over the next 6 months, that can happen as well. Or some of you could reconnect with an ex as well, as I say. But it does tend to bring about fated relationship changes over the next 6 months. So pay attention. New people could enter your life in August for sure. Some relationships could end in August for sure, but eclipses tend to play out over the next 6 months, unless something is overdue and kind of needs to change now with an eclipse in the seventh house. And it's likely that relationships generally are on your mind, Aquarius, from the 9th to the 25th, with Mercury going through Leo. Now, the lunar eclipse that's happening on the 28th of August, it's happening in your second house of money. There could be financial changes on the horizon this month, and they could be surprising. Could be surprising because of something coming up with a child, or something coming up with creative investing, or something that comes up when it comes to your love life, even some sort of romantic gift that's quite unexpected. I don't know if it's wanted, but it could be that you're receiving something from a love interest that you didn't expect, or there's some sort of unexpected expense, maybe pertaining to a creative hobby or passion, or maybe money that you have to spend on a child, or, a child is asking you for money out of the blue and you're kind of thinking, well, what do you need that for? Could be something unexpected comes up financially pertaining to children. But for some of you, it can just generally bring up significant financial conversations, Aquarius, because the Mercury Sun Cazimi here at the time of this eclipse, part of this mutable T square, is going to be in your 8th house. So you might be having some clarity about a financial matter where maybe some information surprises you or shocks you, but you think, well, at least I know. Or maybe it's that now that it's on the table, you can kind of address it, or you know where you stand with something, or you have an unexpected idea. For some of you with the 5th house, this could actually be something unexpected when it comes to a gamble, but I am not telling you to gamble because it's a square. Not that I would tell you to gamble anyway, because I'm just a person on the internet, but it feels as though for a lot of you, there could be something unexpected comes up with money. The 5th house is linked to gambling, so be careful with that square. That could be an unexpected loss that you didn't. There's no such thing as a safe bet around this time, is what I'm saying. But it does seem that you have financial clarity. You also have clarity on something, Aquarius, that you want to transform or change. And maybe this is because of changes in a relationship. Maybe you're wanting to transform or change a pattern of yours, address a pattern of yours. But I think for a lot of you, that eclipse is triggering financial changes. And it might be that you have to spend a little bit of money. Just bear in mind that eclipses don't affect everyone equally, and not every eclipse affects you at all. So, for one person, this could be a significant change in how they make money due to creative changes or inspirations. For another person, this could just be that your kid asks to borrow 100 quid or something like that. Don't be too scared of eclipses generally, because sometimes they truly pass by and you don't. You see them play out in other people's lives, but not necessarily your own, Aquarius. I do think if an eclipse is likely to affect you, it's probably the solar eclipse in Leo, especially if you have anything at 19, 20, 21 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, or Taurus. Mars is going to go through your 6th house this month, Aquarius, and this is great for fitness. So if you're into sport, if you're into fitness, and if you're into the gym, this is the time when you might feel really driven to do these things. You might feel really inspired to work out, to go to the gym, to work on your nutrition. You've a lot more energy for the gym or sport with Mars going through the 6th house. Even if it's in fall in Mars, your mood might influence your health and fitness routines or your work, your productivity even. You may also feel a little bit more protective at work. You could be more easily offended by coworkers or employees. There could be a bit more tension at job. You might notice people being passive aggressive with each other or with you. It can bring tension with coworkers. It can also bring tension just in terms of how much you have to do at your job or in your daily routines as well, Aquarius. So just bear that in mind. Things could also ramp up when it comes to your work and your job and events pertaining to them because we recently had the Mercury retrograde here, which was stalling things. And with Mars going through the sixth house now, you might find things really ramp up when it comes to your job. That is what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Pisces. Welcome to your horoscope for August 2026. Pisces, we are now in eclipse season. And as we know, during eclipse season, things tend to ramp up, they tend to accelerate, and very fated and destined events, endings, beginnings, disruptions, revelations, course corrections, they all happen in eclipse season. And this one features you. So we have a lunar eclipse in your first house. The North Node is no longer in the first house, but it is quite close to the moon. And we have had a series of eclipses in your sign and your opposite sign, Virgo, since the end of 2024. So, a lunar eclipse in your sign, a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces in your first house. This can trigger some kind of image change. You could be switching up your style, your aesthetic. There could be some sort of physical change to your face, to your body. There could be weight gains, weight losses. You could just simply be feeling as though you want to rebrand or maybe release something, Pisces. It is possible that your identity is shifting in some way and you're taking on a new form and releasing an old one. So this eclipse is a little bit unexpected. It is in this mutable T square. So the lunar eclipse itself is square Uranus. And as it is a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, it is opposite the sun in your seventh house of relationships, which is conjunct Mercury, the ruler of your relationships. So there's clarity, I feel, when it comes to your relationship matter, when it comes to a significant other, a business partner, a prospective partner. There's a conversation, there's clarity, there's information. It could be that somebody is telling you something. A relationship or a potential partner is maybe talking to you about something around the time of this eclipse. And it could be surprising, it could be unexpected. And it could be unexpected because of how it relates to the home or how it relates to family. Some of you could be on a whim deciding to move in with a partner or deciding to move out. Or there could be unexpected developments when it comes to home and property. So maybe it all moves very fast. You move in with someone, or you sign a lease somewhere very quickly, or you find your dream home and all of a sudden you're moving in, or suddenly you have to move. Maybe there's something going on in your family. Maybe there's an unexpected event with a family member, some sort of surprise or change that affects you and it seems to affect your relationships as well. So maybe you're moving because of changes in a relationship, or maybe a partner is moving because of changes in your relationship. Eclipses tend to bring fated events and acceleration. So I feel for a lot of you, there could be substantial change on the horizon, Pisces, especially if you are one of those Pisces people who has 3, 4, 5 degrees of the mutable signs. Because, this will be triggering the energy you're getting from Uranus already when it comes to your home, your living situation, your family, and that type of thing. And Uranus, it tends to accelerate things, so things can move very quickly. I do feel like there is some sort of conversation with a significant other or a partner, or maybe pertaining to legal matters when it comes to your life and your property and your home and your living arrangements, Pisces. But at the very least, this lunar eclipse could be triggering an image change for you, a rebrand, shifting your identity. Maybe for some of you, you're becoming a parent and that's shifting your identity, or you're becoming engaged or you're becoming married and that's shifting your identity. For a lot of you as well, just generally with Jupiter being in the sixth house, I think you're very focused on your health. And I think with this total solar eclipse coming up on the 12th in your sixth house, with Jupiter, your traditional ruler, in the sixth house, I think a lot of Pisces are going to get very interested in health and fitness. Very interested in health and fitness. And that total solar eclipse in the 12th could kickstart a 6-month health journey for Pisces risings, where you're more interested in fitness and health. If you're joining a gym, or you're starting a new job, or returning to an old job, you can connect with people who are meant to be on your path in some way. You can also connect with people that you used to work with. You know, old colleagues, old employees can come back into your life because of the South Node. You can also go back to workplaces where you've worked before or work with people you've worked before, as I said. This can also be for some of you that you're going down a new professional path, one that feels more expansive to you. And dare I say, Pisces, one that feels more fun with Jupiter going through the sixth house. Jupiter going through the sixth house, especially because Jupiter rules your 10th, can bring you more exposure with higher ups. It can bring you more exposure publicly in your career, and you can use that to your advantage. In fact, Jupiter is trining Saturn in your second this month, so it may be that it helps you financially as well, especially with a savings goal. But I think for a lot of you, there could be new developments when it comes to your health and your well-being, Pisces. It could be that you're changing jobs. It could be that you're traveling for work with Jupiter or relocating for work. But it could be that you are going in a whole new direction, or there's significant shifts and changes when it comes to your day job and your routines as well, Pisces. But I do think with your ruler there, you will be more interested in what you eat, how you take care of yourself, your routines, your rituals. They'll bring you a lot of pleasure and they'll bring you a lot of peace. Jupiter going through the sixth house can be about finding God in the little things. So you'll be very present in your day-to-day experience. And with Mercury going through your sixth house from the 9th to the 25th, you're likely thinking about your work and your job, and it could be a very busy time, a lot of communication. But then with the Sun entering Virgo on the 22nd and Mercury entering Virgo on the 25th, it feels like for a lot of you, your mind shifts to relationship matters, particularly with that eclipse coming up. Important conversations with a significant other, with a partner, maybe legally. This could be a time where you are coming into agreements with other people or getting clarity on your relationships with other people. Venus is going through your 8th house this month, and this can be a time where you are feeling very magnetic. Venus is domicile in Libra. You can absolutely attract resources from other people as well. Now, Mars is going through your 5th house, and Mars is going through Cancer. We have had a lot of activity in the sign of Cancer over the last couple of years. You know, it was 2 years ago we had the Mars retrograde here, and then Jupiter entered here, and then we had a Mercury retrograde here recently. Mars going through the 5th house tends to bring a lot of action and a lot of energy. So for you, this is when it comes to dating, when it comes to romance. It can also bring a bit of heat and a bit of friction, but in the sign of Cancer, sometimes a little bit of passive aggression. So there can be significant movement in your romantic life where you're feeling more interested in pursuing people that you're interested in, or pursuing dating, or people are interested in pursuing you. This can also be that if you have children, they're a little bit more difficult. They could be a little bit more, they could be a little bit moodier, actually, and a little bit more fussy with Mars going through the 5th house. But it can also be a time of great creative inspiration where you have these bursts of energy creatively. Now, that can also be mood, influence, drive. So bear in mind that you may one day feel super creative and inspired, and other days you can just fall flat, and that is life, Pisces. But that is what I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.